guys, this is Lord Chael speaking on behalf of our show sponsor, Established Titles. Established Titles is a project based on a historic Scottish custom where landowners are referred to as lords and ladies. They allow you to buy as little as 1 square foot of dedicated land so you can officially call yourself a lord or lady. Established Titles is not just about your ego. You also get to do some good. In addition to your new fancy title, Established Titles supports global charities like One Tree Planted and Trees for the Future to help with their afforestation efforts. Your title pack gives you at least 1 square foot of dedicated land on a private estate in Scotland, and your official certificate proves your title, as well as your unique plot number where you can see the exact location of your land. If you're looking for a fun, last-minute gift this holiday season, this is a great way to surprise a loved one. Who doesn't want to become an official lord? Getting the certificate even allows you to officially change your name to Lord or Lady. Put it on your credit cards, plane tickets, or if you're so inclined, put it on your dating profiles. Established Titles is having a great limited time sale. Go to establishedtitles.com/Chael and save 10% off today. Remember to use the promo code Chael or just click on the link below. Conor McGregor came out over the weekend. He was talking about Khabib. And I was very interested in what Conor had to say for this reason. Conor said Khabib was good, not great. But then he laid out why. That's where things got interesting, right? Because you're always going to have sour grapes. You have to, there's some things you have to say if you're still competing and one guy's not. Which is you either tip your hat and say he's wonderful because he's out of there anyway, or you say not so fast. We still have the best guys and I'm one of them. And let me tell you why this guy doesn't qualify. So that's the road Conor took, but that's a hard argument to make when you're talking about Khabib, who's the most dominant fighter of all time. Not maybe. This isn't a maybe. This isn't even Chael's opinion. These are the numbers. Khabib has more 10-8 rounds than any combat athlete to ever do it. That includes boxing. You guys aware of that? More 10-8 rounds, which means Khabib's dominant. The most dominant fighter to ever do it. He not only beat guys, he dominated them. But Conor broke this down and said he doesn't kick very well. As a matter of fact, he doesn't kick at all. Well, now Conor has my attention because that's true. That is true. Then Conor proceeded to work through certain things, such as he never left his weight class. He missed weight twice. He could barely make it. It was his number one struggle. Why wanted he go up? He didn't do it. He didn't take those kinds of risks. So Conor laid out a compelling case because he told the truth. What would be wrong is if you misinterpret that, because I agree with Conor fully. I don't think there was anything there that any of us could disagree with. But less is more. That's the part that's the conclusion Conor is not coming to, and he's hoping that you don't come to. But it's the one I came to. Less has always been more in this sport. The most dynamic guy will get the higher ranking on the pound for pound list. He will get more power inserted if he makes the video game. He will capture your minds more, but it never has worked out. It's always been less. Khabib, be my first example. Pushed everybody into the fence, took them down, and mauled them, but in that order. Khabib was not the great wrestler that you remember him as, or that people speak about. Khabib had to, and I do mean had, to push you into the fence, then get the takedown in that order. The one fight where he struggled to get takedowns and ultimately did not get takedowns was in the open against Al Iaquinta, which Khabib himself to this day will tell you was the hardest fight he ever had. But it was hard because he couldn't push Al into the fence. Al knew the secret. The secret was keep your back off the fence. It will take away 90% of this guy's offense. So Khabib did very little. And he was the most dominant ever, which is where less is more. And it always has been. George St. Pierre, next down. George was the greatest offensive wrestler, MMA wrestling, sports ever seen. He took everybody down. He took them down multiple times, and nobody got up. George was 1,000 pounds when he was on top of you. He would pass guard. He would maul you. He would annoy you. He would hit you. He'd look to stretch you. He would stay busy the entire time. One takedown, you're never getting up. One takedown wins the round. Because the position isn't going to change. That's not a lot. What I just said, you had to be really good at it, and George was. But that's not a lot. That wouldn't qualify as dynamic. Less is more. Randy Couture, when he captured the championship of the world, he did more than anybody at that time, which is he was a wrestler who could strike. He would do it from what they call dirty boxing. He would do it from the clinch, but he used his hands on his feet. He used the takedowns and ground you out. That's not a lot. Less is more. It always has been in this sport. When this sport opens up, I had a conversation with a guy, I'm going to leave his name out of it, but it's somebody you guys know and you would respect. It's somebody I know, it's somebody I respect. But I sat at a table as he was talking to the third person at our table. I was sitting there, I was eavesdropping, I was watching this conversation go back and forth, and this fighter I'm speaking of said this is the hardest sport to prepare for because you must be a master of Taekwondo offensively, but you must know every defense. You must be a master of karate offensively, but you must know every defense. You must be a master of boxing offensively, but you must know every defense. You must be a master of wrestling. He went through every martial art you could think of, and he said you must know them all offensively, you must all know defensively. And I remember sitting there listening to him going, what a bunch of crap. I don't need to know any of those things. I hit you, you don't hit me. That's the sport we're playing. Clayton Hires never said anything else to me about the sport. This is a game of I touch you and you don't touch me. I don't need to know the goddamn Taekwondo. I don't need to know boxing and kickboxing and Muay Thai and karate. I don't need to know any of those things. I don't need to know the defenses. It's the same thing. Don't get hit. So, different perception because the guy who said this fought for a world championship. He's very good. When I tell you to know who he is, he's very good. But he had a very different perception than I did. Very different opinion. So I share with you because most people will favor Conor that you've got to be good with the feet. You got to be good with the knees. You got to be good with the elbows. But if you look at our greats, Khabib, George, top of my head here, they weren't. They were good at what they were good at. I remember when Damian Maia bust onto the scene and reran the sport 20 years, took it back 20 years, showed everybody that one dominant discipline is better than being good at 5 disciplines. If you're dominant in one, that's what Khabib did. He dominated one. That's what Maia did. That's what St. Pierre did. That's what Randy did when Randy did it. That's what Hoist did in 93 and Severn did in 96. It's one of these things that we always tend to believe. And this was tested head-to-head. It was Demetrius Johnson versus Henry Cejudo. Henry Cejudo, who I would now say is dynamic, but he wasn't. He was undynamic the first time they fought. He was not dynamic the second time they fought. DJ was. DJ will finish you on the feet. He'll finish you with a kick. He'll finish you with a punch. He will finish you on the ground with an arm bar, but also with a choke. Demetrius could do it all, but he spread himself around a little bit too thin. Henry buckled down. Less was more. So I don't disagree with Conor's analysis of Khabib. That is true. Khabib is not going to kick you. He's not going to hit a spinning roundhouse. You don't even have to worry about it. The things you have to worry about with Khabib are extremely limited. And they're in this order. Don't go to the fence. Everybody that fights Khabib thinks, I need to be able to get off the bottom. I need to be able to stop a takedown. You're wrong. Stay off the fence. Those other two things won't even happen. It's very relevant, though. I feel as though I'm the only one that ever studied Khabib. I'm the one that coined the phrase, Khabib is the most dominant fighter in the sport because he has more 10-8 rounds than anybody in combat history, and that includes boxing. I coined that. Now you hear it all the time because people went and looked it up, and it turned out I was right. And I'm only saying that, I guess I'm saying a little bit to pat myself on the back, but the other point that I'm trying to point out is I've studied Khabib. I've watched this. There's no part of what I'm saying that it's insulting Khabib. None. Well, he has to push in the fence or he can't do anything. That sounds insulting. Why? If he's able to push everybody into the fence and you know that it's coming, that's what the great Babe Ruth did. He would walk to the mound and tell you where he was going to put the ball. That's what Mike Tyson would do. He let everybody know it's coming with an uppercut and I'm finishing it with a hook. And they did all know. They just couldn't stop it. And the conception and the belief, whether it's the gentleman I was at the table with or what's Conor McGregor saying now, that you have to know everything, that the more you know, the bigger your repertoire. I'm a coach of wrestling. I hate these kids know too goddamn much. They know too much. I've got them doing too much technique. They're not great at any of it. They're not bad at everything. They're not great at any of it. If I could redo coaching, I'd have coached these and showed them 2 and 3 moves, and that's it. They know too damn much. They're out there trying to do too much. They're out there overthinking these positions. Less is more.